Good morning. Today is the fourth day of Tishrei, 5784. And I believe it's the 20th of 19th, 20th, something like that, September. September. Okay. So last time we saw we saw the whole Indian of there being apicorsis, there being a denial of God, in the same way that Paro had the same type of denial when they came out of Egypt. ולכן בסוף הגלות הוא תגבות קליפת האפיקורסות, שהוא עניין מלחמת גוג ומגוג כידוע. 16, that's nine. כידוע בעניין תר הסחירה. So this is a pasuk from Isaiah. And this pasuk is saying that in the future, God is going to shave the head and the legs and the beard of he goes into it in the mimer, but of the king of Assyria. Mm-hmm. What's this got to do with anything? What do you mean? God's going to do he can't shave himself, so it's explained in the Chasidut that in the body, the part that most indicates a sense of separation from the source are the hairs. The hairs in general are a symptom. In general, they're a state of contraction, of concealing the divine source. But it's like that the thinking was always that somehow the hairs are skipping through the skin, they're skipping from the source itself, so you don't feel. So when you cut them, you don't feel them. It's a whole state of not being connected to your source, not being connected to anything of life. And so the king of Assyria and other kings also have kfira. They deny God because they don't feel the source. So God has to shave their hairs. The source of this is their hairs. That's where they come to this. It's almost like a person who is constantly touching his hairs. So he's connecting to himself without feeling the source. So he's living his own life, and he's feeling that this life has its own source. It's not connected to anything else. And in any case, it's a whole mimer in Taf Kufayin base. There's actually two versions of it, very long, and deals with everything that has to do with this. So God shaves them. And they makrishim metziut elokut legamre, and they completely deny God's existence. Even though in our times there's already a illumination, a glimmer of what is going to be revealed by the Mashiach, and that is the teachings of Chasidus. And that's what it means, that the redemption at the end of days will be similar to the redemption from Egypt. It will be accompanied by a denial of God's existence. It says that there's going to be three things that are going to burden people, that will cause them to lose their faith in God, to lose their connection. It's not even faith here, as much as it's that they don't feel anything. We talked about this last time, and we talked about these three things. There's Tokef ol Malchut, that the government becomes heavy-handed on people. It's like Orwellian in a certain sense, like 1984. That all these totalitarian regimes, it's almost impossible to find a totalitarian regime nowadays, which is religious. Right? By definition, what they do is they say, I am the king, I am God. That's the whole. That's why we're very, very libertarian. Jews are very libertarian at their core, because they know that you can't have freedom of religion. I mean, you can't be free to connect to God if government is running your life. You have to have that freedom. In fact, the sages say, "Kol hamkabel alav ol Torah mesirim mimeno ol malchut." That if a person receives upon himself the yoke of studying Torah, he's freed from the yoke of the government.
That's a different meaning altogether.
Why?
It means that if you take a furniture, and all of the things that the government says you're allowed to do this, you're allowed to do that. As far as Yiddishkeit is concerned, they won't touch you because you connect to Hashem. So even if it's officially,
Why is it different?
death sentence, if you put on Twitter, you do it, and you're free from the death sentence.
No, ol malchut doesn't necessarily mean death sentences. I mean, it can get to that.
For example.
Yeah, but it's not as life and death as you're picturing it. It's more a question of do you have freedom or not to do what you want to do. Where's your mind? Who are you preoccupied with? Who's your master? Basically, is what it means. And if you live with a feeling that I mean, government now is somewhere in the middle. It's between.
The death sentence has been changed to income tax.
Right. so if you feel that the world is less democratic, it's true, it's less democratic, because especially since Corona, governments are quick to take power from you, and they're very slow to give it back, if at all, if they ever give it back to you. And they're always looking for new ways to impinge upon your liberties. And the reason that they do this is because they want to control your life. And so if you take God upon you, then let's say, just say you have a certain freedom from the Ol Malchut. There's also here Ol Derech Eretz. And there's a parnasa also. There's a livelihood that you need to make. And it becomes more and more difficult. So we talked a lot about this, that even though today people have more free time, but even their free time, they're losing back to their work. I mean, it hasn't created a situation in which people go to work for 4 hours a day, and then they have the rest of the day off. The fact that we have so much technology and so many abilities. In fact, it's created the opposite situation, where instead of working for 8 hours a day or 9 hours a day, people now work 12 hours a day and 14 hours a day. It's actually made people even less able to engage in their free time. And finally, there is a hysterelokut. There is what we said, that in general, there is a receding of the divine light that was in the previous generations, because it's now going to be exchanged for something else. So all three things together lead to a situation in which there is a complete lack of feeling of godliness in society, in the world. עד שיוכלו לומר בחוצפה אפילו על מציאות גילוי אלוקות הנגלה על ידי תורת הבעל שם טוב ותלמידיו, שהם דבר שקר חס וחלילה, כמו שכתוב ואל ישוב בדברי שקר. And today the thing that they say is false. I mean, what did Moses want? Moses wanted them to go out for 3 days and serve God. Okay. Today we just had sort of like a 3-day thing, Rosh Hashanah, and people say we can't go out for 2 days not to work. We can't do that, even though it's Shabbos and Sunday. I just heard that from someone, that he couldn't find time. His work is so demanding from him that he couldn't even go to shul. And he's obviously somebody who doesn't keep Shabbos, doesn't keep the, let's call it the prohibitive side of the Chagim of Shabbos, but he usually kept the prescriptive side. Go to shul and daven and hear the shofar and this. He didn't do anything. Why? Because apparently the work is too demanding. So that's exactly what Paro said. The burden of the work should become heavier, and this way they won't engage in these nonsensical acts that you want them to engage in. Vain fantasies. And all the more so when you come and you say something like Chasidus, which demands a lot more. So the vain fantasies of Chasidus, who needs that? Who needs all that? You don't need to daven for 6 hours a day. That doesn't. You don't need that at all. That's all. Like we said, you're trying to live freely at our expense. And in Israel now, that it's even worse. Right? The whole feeling now is that if you, God forbid, keep any mitzvot, you're the enemy of the state. Right? That's the way that the left is picturing it now, and very interesting. It goes on every level. It can be at the level of a person who's studying Torah, like he's a Haredi, and it can be at the same level of somebody who wants to settle the land of Israel, and he's not asking the state for anything. He just says, just don't destroy my home. But at every level, it's like if you're engaging in these things, you're the enemy. We need to get rid of you. You should be ashamed of yourself. Why? Because you're living at our expense. That's like the general zeitgeist. Mamish, he's describing to us exactly what the situation is. And this is a sign that the new illumination, the new light, the new revelation of God is already revealed above it. And therefore, the old type of revelation is now completely gone, as we explained in length. And just as God said to Moses then, now you will see. In the same way, God is saying through the prophet that when the time comes for the final redemption, it will be like in Egypt. I will show you miracles. I will show you wonders. This self. How do you read this? לסובב דכל סובבים למטה. I don't know how to read this. This is the first acronym initials I've seen. I don't know what to do with. Samich Daled Kaf Samich. I want to say it's Sovev the Kol Sovevin, but it doesn't make any sense. In any case, so the highest level, I don't know what he means here, but I know he means the highest level will be revealed below B'riyah Chushit, revealed to the eyes. Moshe Katuv ve'amar b'yom hahu hinei Elokeinu zeh. And the way that we say, and the Gemara explains in Masechah Sukkah, that in the future we will point to Hashem and say, this is the God. Here is God. ולכן מרמזים בכל שנה ושנה, כי כשנתחדש בפרט חיות על השנה בפרט, יש בו מכל מה שיש בכלל שיטה אלפי שנין דהי עלמא. Now we're going back to this whole idea that, remember that the way we started this, these are the 3 weeks of destruction of Puranuta, of the destruction of the temple. Then the 7 weeks of consolation, and then the 2 weeks, 2 Shabbases of Tshuva. When are the two Shabbases of Tshuva? So the first one was the one before Rosh Hashanah, okay? And the second one is the one now, our Shabbos now, Shabbat Tshuva, the Shabbos of Tshuva, of returning to God. So every year when we finish the cycle and the year renews, that is the time that there's a new light that comes down, as we just said about the shofar, that before we blow the shofar, it's like the light of the previous year is gone, and the light of the new year is not yet here. So the evening of Rosh Hashanah becomes the most difficult year of all. The most difficult evening, because you don't have the new light yet. So he says that in general is happening throughout these weeks, that there's a change of the guard of the light that God brings down into the world. So every Pesach, every Passover, we feel the exodus from Egypt, and then every moment is also, it's a reenaction of what there was during that year when they came out of Egypt, now here in our reality. There's also in every year, and this happens on the last day of Sukkot, and Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah, that then we have a taste of the future. The reason that the joy of Simchat Torah is so great, it's greater than all the other joys, is because it's a taste of the future. It's something entirely different. והילכך מפטירים גימל דפורענותא והוא מן י"ז בתמוז שהוא שבירת הלוחות הראשונות. And this we talked about, the whole, how this all relates to the time of the year, that the three Shabbases of destruction are from the 17th of Tammuz, which is when Moses shattered the first set of tablets, Ad Yom Kippurim, שהוא מתן תורה של לוחות האחרונות. And this whole process ends with Yom Kippur, which is the time that he came down the third time from the mountain, with the second tablets. So now he tells us the reason that on the 17th he was able to even shatter. How could you shatter something that God made? So the reason he was able to shatter it was then in a condensed form. Within 3 months, 4 months, they went through this whole process that the first set of tablets was one revelation of God, and the second set of tablets was a completely higher revelation. And to make room for the second, the first had to be shattered. And so the reason he was even able to shatter them was because God was cooking already the higher revelation, what we called it the second tablets, or the tablets of the Balei Tshuva, of people who return to God. שהוא בחינה יותר גבוה, כי לוחות הראשונות הוא מתן תורה לצדיקים, ולוחות האחרונות הוא בחינת מתן תורה לבעלי תשובה. Because the first set of tablets was like the giving of the Torah for tzaddikim, and the last set was like giving the Torah for the Baalei Tshuva. By the way, the Rebbe taught on Simchat Torah, he would always teach a nigun, not always, for 10 years pretty much, from Tav Shin Tet Zayin until Tav Shin Kaf Daled. And he began and ended with the same nigun. I don't know if you know this. He began and ended with saying Ata b'chaltanu mitola, and he taught it in two different ways. We put them together now. And he said that the first one that I taught was the tzaddikim, and the last one, the last year in Tafshin Kaf Daled in 1964, the last time that 1963, when he taught a nigun on Simchas Torah in the morning, it was the Baalei Tshuva form of Ata B'chaltanu. The same exactly.